Hello everyone, this is Kat with Cat Night TV. Today we are playing part 7 of the playthrough for the visual novel called Seduce Me. It has been pretty good so far. We have been dealing with a succubus who it was apparently betrothed to the eldest brother James in the demon world. So she's been targeting our character to try and, I guess, get her out of the way. And it will be interesting to see what happens. So let's get started. After what seemed like hours, I finally woke up, slightly refreshed. My body knew that if I slept any longer, I'd be up all night, which was not part of the plan for the day. I rubbed my eyes and sat up, letting a soft groan escape my lips. In response, something beside my bed shuffled, causing me to look over. I didn't know what I was expecting. Beside me, sitting in a chair beside the bed, was James, rousing himself up to see me awake. I smiled at him, seeing his slightly ruffled hair and tired eyes.
Oh, you're awake. Good. Ooh, how do you feel?
Better. James nodded before he gently reached over and ran his hand through my hair, examining my face with soft sadness.
I'm sorry this is all happening to you. I really wish there was something I could do to fix all of this.
James, it's not your fault.
No, if we never came, then you'd never be targeted by either Malix or Diana.
I quickly reached over and put my finger on his lips, stopping him from going any further. I didn't want to hear any more. James, it's okay. I wanted to help you out. I offered to let you all stay. Nothing is your fault. I gently moved my hand and cupped James' cheek, staring at him with concern. I didn't want him to hold guilt in his mind about this whole ordeal. Diana was desperate, and she'd hunt anyone for them. It wasn't his fault she was desperate enough to hunt them down. However, I was curious. So, James, you're a demon prince? James then twirled a strand of my hair around his finger, staring at it.
Yes, I am. I was.
Was?
I was a demon prince when I lived in the Abyssal Plains. I didn't enjoy a single minute of being the heir. The only moments I truly enjoyed were when I was with my brothers. Thus, I left with them to come here.
What was it like while you were there?
Well, other than consistent studying and training to be a resilient leader and all-around ruthless lord, it was bland. I never truly knew what freedom was until I was excused from my sessions.
James looked to me with a thoughtful look on his face. I stared back, wondering what was going through his mind. He then smiled before taking off his glasses and placing them on me. I was surprised, but instead of seeing him, I saw dark gold and purple magic swirl in front of my eyes through the glass. The vision cleared and I suddenly was back in the demon castle. I looked around, feeling stuck in place, but my eyes instantly landed on a demon version of James. He was sitting on the throne of the main hall, reading over a book with an intense expression. It was kind of cute to see, but he read in silence.
You'll wear out your eyes if you read too much.
James looked up from his book to see a figure materialize in front of him. It was an older woman with a black cloak and aged horns. I could see she had power, though, and it gave me shivers to look at her.
Sirona, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be at the Lord gathering with my father?
I should, yes. But I had to stop by and see the Demon Lord's favorite son before I head in.
I am honored. However, I must apologize and return to my reading.
Of course. Wouldn't want to make the Demon Lord angry now, would you?
I could see James's eye twitch a bit at her comment. However, James simply bowed his head and went back to his book in silence. Sirona shook her head and let out a chuckle.
What will you do when you become the Demon Lord? It's such a big responsibility.
James looked up once again, confused at the question. Sirona simply smiled and began to walk away.
Think about that.
James and I watched her walk away, both of us with the same surprised and confused expression. I looked back to James to see him press his lips together and stare at the floor. Anyone could tell that he was lost, unsure of how to even answer that to himself. It was strange to see him in a form of weakness, jostled at a simple question that was more than it appeared. James closed his eyes and closed the book on his lap. It was then that I noticed the tired circles under his eyes. He had been working himself to the bone with his training in reading. When was the last time he slept? I could feel James in the real world gently slide the glasses from my face and place them back on his. It took me a second to recenter my vision, but then I looked to James, who smiled at me.
It was then that I decided to find my brothers. Little did I know that they were wanting me to come on a trip that would make me leave my entire realm to be in a new world.
I stared up at him, surprised, before bringing my hand gently back onto his cheek and running a thumb softly under his eye. He looked healthier and a lot less tired than when I saw him in the vision. Something about that made me happy. James gently leaned into my hand, closing his eyes and relaxing. He then slightly smiled, trying to joke.
So, how does it feel to hold the affections of an ex-demon prince?
I stared, feeling my cheeks glow red in surprise and embarrassment, but I smiled and giggled slightly, running my thumb back and forth along his cheek gently. I have to say I'm flattered to think you ran away from that life. James frowned, making me stop moving my thumb as he stared at me.
I can promise you, that was no life to live.
But it was your home.
A home is where you can be yourself, not tied to your duty.
James gently ran his hand along my cheek, gingerly outlining the edge of my eye and ear with his thumb.
Home is where all I have to do is care about the ones close to me.
James. James smiled and gently leaned in, kissing my forehead. I felt a small shiver run down my spine from his kiss, noting that he sneakingly took some energy from me in that little kiss.
Now, you need to rest. You're not fully recovered. You might as well rest until dinner is ready.
James smiled and gently pressed me back down onto the bed, leaning his forehead on mine. Let's steal a kiss. Out of playful fun, I lifted my head and gently kissed James, softly laying a hand on his cheek to keep his face close. James stared in surprise before kissing me back, caressing my cheek, slightly melting at the touch of our lips. A soft sigh escaped his lips before he slowly pulled away with a smile. He gently licked his lips, making me go red in the face at the simple gesture. He let out a satisfied hum before nuzzling my forehead.
Rest.
And with that, he stood up and left the room, leaving me to rest as per his request. I smiled to myself before relaxing into the mattress. I suddenly tensed up. I felt majorly uneasy. Something wasn't right. I felt it in my core. She must be here. The thought of her in the house infuriated me beyond belief. I had to make sure she was not here. I rolled out of bed and quickly left my room, wandering the halls and listening closely. She was a demon, but I was listening very intently. There was no way she would have been able to sneak up on me. I know you're here. Where are you? I could feel myself growl. It wasn't a matter of fear that she'd take away the boys anymore. Her very existence had lit a fire of rage within my gut, which only grew as each day went by. This feud was getting on my nerves, and I knew it would not end well for one of us. I wasn't going to lose to that demon bitch.
Diana, what are you doing here?
My heart stopped. Diana was with James. My mind flew into slow motion, playing fake images of Diana trying to seduce James in my head to further fan the angry flame inside of me. I instinctively followed James's voice and approached the study. The door was open just a crack, wide enough to peek in without being noticed. I peeked inside to see James by the bookshelf with Diana in one of the armchairs, looking to him.
Silly man, why do you think I'm here?
To be fairly honest, I don't really care.
I'm hurt, wounded, truly. You don't care that I came to this pathetic little world just for you?
I'm sorry, let me make this clear. You are not welcome here, so I suggest leaving.
Is that any way to speak to your fiancé?
Diana wasn't his fiancée anymore. Why was she speaking as if the arrangement was still going on?
Our arrangement was broken when I left the Abyssal Plains. You are no longer my fiancé.
What a stubborn man. Just like your father. Well, you should know. He decreed that should you return home, you'll maintain your status and keep your birthright.
James would be the heir again. Why?
I don't want it.
You don't want it. You'd give up the...
I said I don't want my damned birthright! What birthright? It's imprisonment, a life sentence! Am I not allowed to be selfish for once in my lifetime?
It's your reason for your birth. Do you not realize what you have?
I could feel James's anger emanating from the crack in the door, fighting with Diana's tension. Diana and James were both matched, staring at each other down.
I know exactly what I had. That's all behind me. I'm done with that. To hell with my birthright.
To hell with your birthright. You truly think you can decide that? You are the first son of the Demon Lord. You are the heir to the throne, and I am your bride, the next Demon Queen.
Why was Diana so desperate? It irked me to see how desperate she was to get James to return.
Greystraw, you...
All of a sudden, James ran at Diana and pinned her to the floor by her neck. I felt the need to jump in, but I knew James wasn't trying to do anything romantic. He wouldn't. His voice sent shivers down my spine as they continued to speak, with his hand at her throat.
And what gives you the right to use my name like that? Only demons of the same blood are permitted to use each other's true names.
When our families arranged our marriage, I was given permission to use your name as mine. That's what you are, James. You are my husband. I am your queen. You are my Greystraw. I am your Iseud.
I could hear James growling in anger, like he was ready to bite Diana's head off like a wolf would a small deer. I felt myself growl quietly to myself as well. However, James pushed himself off the floor and returned to the opposite side of the room, away from the prone Diana.
I do not belong to you. I belong to her.
The human girl? You must be joking. A human like her can't possibly provide you what you need. She is a human. You're a demon.
I felt the urge to storm in and shut her mouth. It would give away my position, but I was growing extremely tired of Diana. And barging in would do what? She can shut me off with like a look, so let's just hold and see what happens. I didn't want to step in at the wrong time. James could handle Diana. I trusted him enough to fight for me. I stood my ground and watched in silence.
You seem to overestimate the value of your efforts. You will not convince me or any of my brothers to leave with you.
Truly? I could always enthrall you to come back.
You and I both know that that costs energy, and, from what I've gathered, you've spent a majority of your energy already just trying to find us and terrorize the human.
Observant, aren't you?
That was true. She was constantly using her power. She didn't have a recharge option like the boys did with me. She must have been weak. She would lose her fight. Diana sighed before crossing her arms and leaning on one hip.
This was a complete waste of my time. I should have just enthralled your little human girlfriend and made her jump off a cliff.
James looked at Diana, glaring daggers into her soul as she raised her arms up gently as if to block his attempts to scare her.
Though, I'm not surprised she hasn't come out of her little hiding spot to come and defend you.
Diana then looked over my direction, locking eyes with me. I froze in surprise. She knew I was there. Diana smirked as I stepped into the room.
Humans are such fleeting creatures. She can never fully and truly love a demon.
Diana then slid her gaze to James before sinking into the ground, the pentagram appearing around her feet.
Let me know when you figure that out, my dear. I'll come running.
What a bee. And with that, Diana vanished, leaving James and I alone in the room, left in silence. I finally let out the air I was unconsciously holding in my chest, relaxing from the ordeal. James stepped to me and held me gently, surprising me.
Are you okay?
I nodded in response, unable to speak so immediately after being surprised. James let out a sigh, relaxing in the embrace. I gently placed my hands around him, returning the embrace slightly. I wasn't sure what to do. All of this was spinning in my head in circles before I decided to simply look up at the man holding me. James smiled back happily in response. James gently leaned in and kissed my forehead before slightly pulling away from the embrace.
Come, you need to rest still.
James then wrapped an arm around my shoulders and lowered his other arm underneath my knees. I easily held on to him as he lifted me up like a blushing bride. That's such a silly thing. Anyway, and carried me out of the room towards my room. James was kind enough to know my mind and would not force the issue no matter what. He was too sweet, and I didn't deserve his kindness. James gently lowered me to my bed before petting my head with a loving smile. I was beaming in happiness. As James kissed my forehead and turned to leave, I slowly sank into the covers, relaxing. The sound of footsteps echoed before finally I was alone. I rested my head against the pillows, enjoying the cool they provided as I closed my eyes. I'll be ready when I'm ready. Will it be soon? Who knew? All I knew at that moment was that I made a choice I felt was right.
I will not leave here empty-handed.
I tried to open my eyes at the sound, but I felt my eyes remained shut. I instinctively wanted to move, but my body felt frozen. What was Diana doing? I felt my body lift up from the bed, leaving me to hover and quake in fear. I wanted to scream, but my voice was frozen as well. I felt Diana move to angle her face over mine. I wanted to move away, but at the same time, I felt like I was blissfully melting in her gaze.
Well, if I can't return home with the boys, I might as well return home with the power to fight back.
Diana finally leaned in and kissed me. I tightened my closed eyes, feeling the need to bite her lips, but finding no muscles in my face listening to my mental commands. What did she do to me? I didn't want to enjoy it, but every single nerve in my body was flaring in excitement and pleasure as she kissed me. I felt my energy drain slowly but forcefully from my body. Was she using her magic to force energy out of my body? It seemed like forever, but finally, Diana pulled away from the kiss with an audible lick of her lips. She lowered me back onto the patio and chuckled. For some reason, I could feel her presence. She felt stronger, more powerful. It was almost like looking at a new Diana. As I was lowered back into bed, Diana chuckled at me. I grew even more fearful. Was she going to go for the boys now? To my surprise, her presence vanished, and I felt at ease. It was like an on and off switch Diana pulled on me. Was this normal? Hell no. She was a major nut job. I relaxed slightly, trying to sleep again. Thankfully, I succeeded. The rest of the story can almost be passed over. With Diana gone, my life returned to normal, with school and my friends not remembering what had happened. It was as if magic never even appeared in my world. James cared for me and we remained close to each other. It was sweet, like a simple fairy tale ending. He didn't step over my boundaries, and I deeply appreciated it. James remained faithful to me, living with me and serving me like a servant. I needed the help around the house anyway. It was almost funny to think about, an ex-prince demon becoming a servant to a human girl. The others decided to leave on their own accord. They knew that my future would only need James at my side, so they each decided to start their own lives in the human world. James was heartbroken at first, but understood that he had to let his brothers grow like he did. I felt bad as well, for being closer to James than the others, but they reassured me that I was okay and that they would remain nearby should I ever need them. I was happy for that. But what of my future? Well, it was kind of made for me. Before I graduated, James decided to step into the light of the Anderson Toys Company, and with the help of his demon powers and leadership charisma, he managed to influence not only the entire board, but my father as well into letting him run for CEO. I was beyond shocked. How James managed to do all that was beyond me, but when the vote was called, James had taken over the company I was destined to have. He vowed to respect the wishes of the late CEO and help the company become an even grander company. For a demon, it was simple to make a company grand. My grandfather would have been proud to see how James helped it shine. With the CEO position filled, my father had no choice but to let me decide my future, which made me happy beyond compare. No longer would I have the future scaring me into a corner. I could choose my life on my own. That being said, I was still scared of where the future was going to take me. What did I want to do? Did I want to help James build the company? Did I want to venture off on my own? James reassured me that he would support me and help me through whatever I decided to do, promising that I came first before the company he had come to reign over. I was grateful and would never forget that promise. I was happy and nothing could shake me down from that happiness. One morning I woke up and took in all that had happened as if it were all a dream. The demons, the devils, the magic, it was surreal to believe. It almost frightened me to think it could have all been a dream. My fears vanished, however, as a knock appeared at my bedroom door. "Come in." The door opened and revealed James with a tray of food for me. A vase with a golden rose sat beside a hot plate of pancakes, eggs, and bacon, decorating my breakfast beautifully.
Good morning.
I simply smiled. It wasn't a dream. I still had James. I still felt the magic in the air around me. I wasn't alone. James walked over and placed the tray on the bed across my legs.
I hope you had a good sleep.
I did. I had a dream about everything that happened to us.
Oh? What do you remember?
Everything. How we met, how you cared for me, everything. It almost made me believe it was all a dream. James smiled at me and got on one knee beside the bed, taking one of my hands in his.
If this was all a dream, may we never wake up.
James gently kissed my hand, making my heart flutter slightly. His devotion to me was beyond my imagination. This was my happily ever after. And that's it for now. So if you liked the video, make sure to like it and subscribe for more videos. We're going to look and see if there's any other visual novels and different fun games that we can play. They were saying that they're going to make a second chapter to this one, so it would be interesting to see the story continue. Thanks for watching and have a good night.